last day of the nationwide lockdown today. The government earlier this week had relaxed the lockdown strategy, letting industrial sector among others to open. However, with the massive surge in COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, the government since yesterday has tightened the lockdown strategy. Meanwhile, the global COVID-19 death toll has exceeded 300,000. Good morning, I'm Amar Singh Pradhan and these are the headlines of the hour. The government's revenue declines by 66 billion rupees during the lockdown period, cutting down unnecessary expenses, only viable option to feed salaries to civil servants. Coronavirus cases in Nepal climbs to 258 as 9 more individuals test positive for the virus today. Samples of more than 400 individuals in Kathmandu collected. Nepali nationals stranded at border transits due to India's reluctance to abide by lockdown agreement. Nepal government under pressure to help return its citizens and their management. And the COVID-19 death toll crosses 300,000 mark. 2 Rohingya refugees test positive for coronavirus in the world's largest refugee camp in Cox's Bazar. 9 more COVID-19 cases have been confirmed in Nepal today, taking the infection tally in the country to 258. The new infected have been identified as 18, 20, 22, 27, 32 and 36-year-old males from Nainapur 1, 3, 5 of Baki district and a 37-year-old male from Makwanpur. Meanwhile, yesterday, a 32-year-old man and a 7-year-old boy from Chandragiri municipality in Kathmandu, a 6-year-old girl from Kabilbastu, 17-year-old girl from Janakpur, a 30-year-old woman from Dhading and a 49-year-old man from Nawalparasi East tested positive yesterday. Their swab samples were tested at Tegu-based National Public Health Laboratory in Kathmandu. The infected man from Kathmandu is medical officer in Balambu-based Armed Police Force Hospital. With the confirmation of the case, the hospital has been sealed as a precautionary measure. Likewise, the girl from Kabilbastu was admitted at Maharajganj-based TU Teaching Hospital for surgery case. Following the confirmation of the case, some 84 swab samples were collected from medical staff at the teaching hospital along with the security guards and cleaning staff. According to Vice Chancellor of Tribhuvan University, Dharmakanta Baskora, all of them have been kept in isolation. Likewise, the man from Nawalparasi East is reported to be the permanent resident of Devchuli municipality of the district. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has informed that a total of 1,000 samples of traders, cleaning staff and cargo staff, including 300 swab samples for PCR test and 700 samples for rapid diagnostic test were collected in Kalimati-based vegetables and fruits market in Kathmandu. Speaking at the regular press meet, a spokesperson at the ministry, Dr. Vikas Devkora, informed that a total of 1,363 samples were tested through PCR method, while 2,008 samples were tested through RDT method yesterday. Meanwhile, the government has tightened the lockdown measures with the massive surge in coronavirus cases in the country on Tuesday and Wednesday. The police have beefed up security checks at the transits entering Kathmandu Valley and have also tightened checks on pedestrians. The vehicles plying without the government-provided passes have been booked for violations of lockdown measures. The Home Ministry had already cancelled the vehicle passes to travel across districts earlier. Meanwhile, the people's representatives in Kathmandu have demanded the government to seal all transits used for entering the Kathmandu Valley. They met and requested Home Minister Ram Bahadur Thapa yesterday to seal all the transits around the Kathmandu Valley, citing that the risk of coronavirus outbreak has increased in the valley due to the unabated and unscreened entry of people from different districts. Meanwhile, 2,277 stranded Nepali nationals have been allowed to enter Nepal from India through border transits in Kabilbastu. These people have been kept in quarantine prepared by the local level. These stranded citizens are said to be from several districts including Kailali, Putan, Dang, Rolpa, Arghakhaji, Sindhupalchok and Bardia. The Chief District Office in Kabilbastu informed that the Nepali nationals were allowed to enter as they were deemed to have possibly contracted coronavirus since they were stranded at the border side for quite some time. They will be allowed to go to their respective districts only after completing mandatory quarantine period. The government is to miss its revenue target due to the sluggish economic activities as a result of the ongoing lockdown amid global COVID-19 pandemic. The government had deposited more than 100 billion rupees revenue a day before the lockdown had started. However, it has shrunk to 34 billion rupees during this lockdown period. The government is also likely to face problems in disbursing salaries to civil servants with the increase in current expenditure and a consistent decline in revenue collection. The government could collect only 606 billion rupees, 54% of just over 1 trillion rupees revenue target until Wednesday. The government expenditure, however, is increasing despite its failure in collecting revenue. According to the latest report of Financial Controller General Office, total revenue of 780 million rupees was collected, while the current expenditure exceeded 3.19 billion rupees on Wednesday. During the 51-day-long lockdown period, total revenue of 42.5 billion rupees was collected, while the general expenditure exceeded 109 billion rupees during this period. If the government would further delay in curbing the expenditure, it would face challenges in providing salaries and pensions to the civil servants. Sectors of expenditure have increased despite shrinking revenue collection. The government has suspended many projects and has reallocated their budgets in containing the coronavirus. In general trend, the revenue backs the current expenditure. However, in the current fiscal year, as the government overlooked in controlling the unnecessary expenditure, experts have warned of national economic crisis. The extent of the lockdown duration is still uncertain at a time when the number of COVID-19 cases has recently spiked, resulting in mounting pressure on budget management. Even as Nepal and India have decided to seal the border transits in a bid to keep their citizens within their territories, the decision has failed to get properly implemented. Nepal government has arranged proper food and shelter for stranded Indian citizens this side of the border. However, many Nepali nationals have been stranded on the other side as Indian government has been forcing them to return. Both the governments agreed to take care of each other's citizens during the lockdown. As per the agreement, the Nepal government has facilitated Indian nationals who have been stranded in several districts in the country with proper arrangements for food and shelter. The government has arranged basic food and accommodation for the Indian citizens willing to return home by keeping them in quarantine in the border area. Almost 1,000 Indian nationals are kept in quarantine in several districts including Kantipur, Banke, Kapilvastu, Rupandei, Sunsari, Bara, Parsa and Jhapa. Besides that, many Indian nationals with risk of the contamination are being monitored by several local authorities, while even relief packages are being provided for many of the Indian nationals. Many local levels in Nepal adjacent to Indian border are providing jobs as a relief to more than 3,000 Indian daily wage workers. However, Indian security personnel have assaulted hundreds of Nepalese, especially laborers and students in India, as they are left with no option other than being stranded forcefully in no man's land. Many of the stranded Nepalese have complained of assault, not being kept in quarantine and even problem of food and shelter. The government of Nepal should be able to respond to the ongoing untoward situations being faced by Nepali nationals during the current global pandemic. A scarcity of medical kits required to diagnose patients with tuberculosis has emerged across the country. The identification of tuberculosis patients and their treatment has been largely affected due to the acute shortage of the Genspert cartridges required to detect tuberculosis as a result of the nationwide lockdown and precautionary measures against COVID-19. According to National Tuberculosis Center, there are around 117,000 TB patients in the country, while 33,000 new tuberculosis patients are added every year. More than 5,000 patients die due to tuberculosis on a yearly basis. There has been a scarcity of Genspert cartridges in almost all hospitals and health centers across the country recently. The kits are required to undergo advanced screening of sputum samples via PCR method. According to doctors, it has been difficult to prescribe specific medicines as per the severity and types of tuberculosis due to the lack of the required testing kits. TB is a curable disease if treated on time. However, the disease can turn fatal or even can transmit to a healthy individual if the patients are left untreated. The government and concerned authorities have currently been indifferent towards the arrangement of health equipment required to treat other diseases due to the ongoing coronavirus crisis. However, experts have warned that continued indifference in this regard, especially in the arrangement of testing kits for tuberculosis, is likely to invite another severe health crisis in the country. And now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with their opinion.
Public Pulse.
Your question is, what should the government prioritize so as to reduce the state expenses? And your options are: option A, curb unnecessary expenses; option B, expand tax parameters; and option C, look for low interest loans. The voting for the question is on. Type in AWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And that's all for the moment. Stay with us for more news and entertainment on KTVSD. Stay home, stay safe and have a good day.